Welcome to Dart Jewel, a space for soul work, story, and liberation. I'm your host, Dr. Dwayne Gelly. This podcast is where faith meets reflection, where culture holds space for healing, and where purpose finds its voice in our everyday lives. Whether you're walking through pain, standing in purpose, or just learning to breathe again, there's light in your story. So let's walk in it together. What if the pain you carry didn't begin with you? What if your anxiety, your overthinking, your silence, or your depression wasn't personal or ancestral? Through modern science, we now know that trauma can pass through at least 3 generations. In these circumstances, our nervous systems learn what danger feels like even when the danger is no longer present. What one generation experiences, the next may inherit emotionally, physiologically, and behaviorally. Let me paint a picture of how that looks. We are familiar with the phrase, the elephant in the room, but when the mother elephant moves, the earth remembers. She is the initial rupture, the wound no one spoke of, but everyone feels. Her footfalls heavy with time, with knowing, with pain unspoken, it leaves impressions deep enough to hold the gathering of tears. She carries the weight of her trauma in the curve of her spine, the weariness in her breath, the caution in her eyes. She doesn't speak of what happened, but the ground beneath her holds the memory. And behind her, her offspring follow. They do not know the full story, but they carry it in their stride, in their silence, and in their instincts. They are shaped by her survival, by what she feared, by what she avoided, and by what she endured. This is how generational trauma moves. Not as a repeated story, but as a truth absorbed. Not as a memory, but as a muscle. Not as history, but as habit. What mother elephant could not speak, her children act out. What she could not grieve, they feel in fragments. What she carried to survive, they carry without knowing why. Let's take a moment to unpack what this image is really saying. In this story, the mother elephant is not just a figure of wisdom. She is the initial trauma. She represents the moment when something happened in a family line that was too heavy to speak, too dangerous to process, and too deep to forget. She may be a grandmother who survived domestic violence, a great-grandfather who was enslaved, incarcerated, or silenced, a parent who experienced war, exile, or abandonment. Whatever the event, it gave birth to her through its impact. She learned to survive, to move differently, to avoid certain waters, to protect her young through silence, vigilance, and control. But trauma doesn't end when the wound closes. It lives on in how she moves, and her children, the offspring, watch, follow, and adapt. They don't always know the story. They may never hear the full truth, but they inherit the rhythm of their mother's survival. Some learn never to trust joy. Some flinch at love. Some become caretakers while others become distant. And the deepest tragedy, many of them will not even know that they are responding to something that began before they were born. They carry the echo of the mother elephant's trauma without ever knowing her name. This isn't just a metaphor, nor is it simply poetic phrasing. Science is finally catching up to what many of us have always felt in our bones. A 2023 study from the Mid Yorkshire Teaching NHS Trust looked closely at how trauma echoes across generations, not just biologically, but in the stories people carry, in their unspoken fears, in their inherited coping strategies. It revealed that trauma isn't just an event, it's a lived experience passed down like memory or like myth. A more recent study in 2025 out of Sam Houston State University uncovered something even more specific. It highlights that among low income Black families, trauma shapes how parents relate to their children and how children learn to see themselves and the world. Even when the trauma isn't named, it shows up in the behavior, in the discipline, and in the silence between the generations. This is not theory. This is life. This is the herd remembering. Some time ago, I had the opportunity to interview an Ianifa, a priestess in the Ifa tradition, as part of a course assignment. What I thought would be a simple academic exchange turned into something much deeper. At one point in our conversation, she said something that has stayed with me ever since. We are part of the generation that has the capacity to heal our bloodlines. She didn't elaborate much. Truthfully, she didn't have to. Because in that moment, I felt the weight of what she was saying and the possibility inside of it. I received her words as a call, not a call to fix the past, but to face it, to process it, to hold it in reverence, to interpret the cycle, not with blame, but with presence and choice. Her words helped me realize something I hadn't put into language before, that healing doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means choosing not to pass it forward in the same form to the next generation. It means standing in the middle of the story and becoming the turning point. When I speak of ancestral healing, I instantly hear the word veneration. But veneration isn't blind worship. It isn't about sanctifying the past. It's about truth telling. There are those in our lineages who caused harm, who abandoned, who violated, who silenced, and who suppressed. And naming that harm is not dishonor. It is one of the acts of healing. We don't venerate the harm. We don't glorify the wound. We name it, we process it, and we reauthor it. That's what it means to take responsibility for the story moving forward. Sometimes we inherit fear disguised as wisdom. Sometimes we inherit control dressed up as protection. And sometimes what was once necessary for survival is no longer useful, but we carry it anyway. The work of veneration, then, is not about pretending everyone in the bloodline was a saint. It's about looking honestly at what shaped us and deciding what deserves to continue and what does not. This is ancestral accountability. This is spiritual literacy. This is healing. Let me share a story my wife once told me. There was a woman who every year prepared her holiday turkey the same way by cutting it in half, throwing one half away and roasting the other. This was a tradition she had inherited from her mother, who inherited it from her grandmother. So she did it with care and reverence, never questioning it, just following the custom. Until one year, she got curious. She asked her grandmother, "Why did you always cut the turkey in half and throw half of it away?" And her grandmother, without missing a beat, said, because I was gifted the turkey for free, and my oven was too small to fit the whole thing. I didn't have the money for a bigger pan or stove. The granddaughter laughed, but also she paused. In that moment, she came to the realization that she had been throwing away half a turkey for years, out of loyalty and not logic, out of tradition and not necessity. That's how inherited patterns work. Sometimes they start with struggle or adaptation or pain. But if we never stop to ask where they came from or if they still serve us, we risk turning someone else's survival strategy into our limitation. But how do we heal the bloodline? How do we re-alter the narrative? Let me offer you a strategy I developed a few years ago I call SLRR. I created SLRR when I was working with middle schoolers. At the time, it was just a simple way to help them manage big emotions like anger, frustration, or overwhelm. It's an acronym that stands for stop, listen, reflect, and respond. Over time, I realized it wasn't just for middle schoolers. It wasn't just about classroom behavior. It was about life. I began to see that SLRR was a way to interrupt not just daily reactions, but inherited ones. To slow us down long enough to ask, is this mine or did I inherit it? Let me walk you through it. Stop. This isn't just about halting what you're doing. It's about catching your breath, taking time to center yourself, and getting back into your body. When your nervous system is racing, when you're about to react, this is the opportunity just to breathe. That breath is your anchor. It tells your body you're safe enough to feel this emotion. Listen, really listen to your body, to your emotions, and to the voice underneath the surface reaction. Whose voice is this? Is it your own or someone else's passed down, internalized, and absorbed? Now ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is this about what's happening now? Or is this a flashback without a timestamp? Is this mine or a story I inherited without permission? Reflection is where reaction transforms into responsibility. And now respond. From awareness, from understanding, and from choice. Say something different. Say nothing at all. Draw a boundary. Show compassion. Do what your ancestors may not have had the chance to do. Let it come from you, not from the impact of trauma. Let's end this together with breath, with presence, and with possibility. If it feels safe, gently close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in, and now exhale. Imagine yourself standing on an open savanna at sunrise. The sky is soft with color. The ground beneath you is warm. You are not alone. The elephants of your lineage stand before you, the matriarch, the fallen, and the watchful. As you approach, you move through the rhythm of SLRR. Stop. You pause. You place your hand over your heart. You breathe. Deep and slow. You choose stillness. Listen. You listen to your body, to the story in your bones, to what rises when all else is quiet. Reflect. You asked yourself, what am I carrying? Who does this belong to? What story am I ready to reauthor? Respond by stepping forward. Place your hand on the elephant's side and you say, I see you. I honor the survival and I choose a new path forward. Inhale. Exhale. This is your breath. This is your rhythm. And this is your power. You can return to this mental savannah at any time. You now have the tools. You now have the awareness. And now you have the choice to stop, listen, reflect, and respond. This is your healing. This is your liberation. If this episode spoke to something in you, if it helped you pause, breathe, or see your story a little differently, I invite you to share it. Not just to post it, but to send it personally to 2 people you care about, 2 people who might also be carrying stories that didn't begin with them. Let them know they're not alone, and let them know healing is possible. Together, we remember. Together, we reauthor, and together we rise. Blessed love.
Damn, boy. What'd you find, dude?